Hi, it's Kamala Harris, and I've got $750 that says you don't think I'm two-faced if you live in North Carolina or Georgia. Hi.
You might not know it to look at me, but I can run really, really fast.
How'd it go with that girl?
Great, I'm going out with her tomorrow night.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Tim. What's up? Actually, I'm having dinner with the girl I met at your party. Mazel tov.
Jerry? Hi.
Kamala?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yes, sir. Come on, our table's ready.
So attractive one day, not attractive the next.
Have you come across this?
Yes, I am familiar with this syndrome. She's a two-face.
Hey.
Boy, am I glad to see you.
You're expecting someone else?
You never know.
You know, you might have to have the tunnel.
So, what do you feel like eating, Chinese or Italian?
I could go either way.
You're telling me.
All I can say is you better be nice to me. And now live from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be That Donald show. We don't have that, so we have That Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, why are Kamala and Waltz lying about women? Dr. Ingrid Skop. Marc and Mike Huckabee with the latest from Decision 24. Sketch comedy from Dilly Means and the Babylon Bee. He's past the point of no return, former Phantom David Gaschen, and new artist Florrie in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, a man who on his last date in Manhattan got asked, do you prefer to be called Anthony or Tony? To which he replied, neither. Here's the... Welcome aboard. It is the weekend. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you here. Couldn't be happier than to be with you on this night. And yes, Dave, you didn't even ask me the worst part about that date.
What was the worst part of that date?
Go ahead, ask.
Okay, what was the worst part?
Not only did she want to know, should I be called Anthony or Tony?
Yeah?
I guess I look like a Tony. I don't think I look like a Tony. I've got a lot of Italian friends on Staten Island. Many of them are Tony. I don't look like a Tony. The worst part of the whole thing, it was my wife that I was on the date with. She wanted to know if I wanted to be called Anthony.
You buried
or Tony.
the lead, dude.
Didn't follow. Anyway, I guess it would be better than if it was my mom. God rest her soul. Welcome to the weekend. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. I feel like I'm living in La La Land a little bit. I turn on this last week. I see the vice president debate. I watched the presidential debate. I see one person on one side of the stage and one person on the other side of the stage, and I feel like neither one of them are talking about the same thing at the same time. It really is remarkable to see the difference, but I kind of wish we could have another debate now, because I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news, but this disaster relief by the Biden-Harris team or the Harris-Biden team, you know that the whole time Biden was in office, because I don't know if he still is, the whole time he was in office, he kept calling her President Harris. Well, okay, let's run with that. Let's put all of this right on her, at her footstool. Here you go, Lady Kamala. It's all yours. Is it Kamala or Kamala? I'm gonna get owned for that. And someone's gonna say, "Oh, you misappropriated her name." Anyway. She comes back and she's like, I got to go to FEMA and have a briefing. That's what I'm going to do. And she has a briefing for about an hour and then she goes home. And then she goes out to fundraisers because, everything's about running for president. And meanwhile, the opponent, Mr. Trump, doesn't go to Washington, the last place you should go if there's like a national emergency. No, he goes to, wow, how's this for strategy? Right to the place where it happened. Talking to the people whose homes got washed down the mountainside in a once-in-a-century gully washer that, flushed Western North Carolina down the tubes. And he's there with big rigs, and he's, awkwardly throwing paper towel rolls to people like he did in Puerto Rico. No, I don't know if he did that. But the point is he's there. The point is he's on the ground. The point is he starts a GoFundMe page, and in 24 hours, they raise $5 million for the people. Meanwhile, back in D.C., you almost kind of need like the Batman. Back in D.C., there's Kamala Harris and President Biden and the DHS Secretary, Department of Homeland Security, who we were this close to impeaching. Remember that? They impeached him, tried to impeach him, got this close to it. Anyway, he shows up. I don't. We're out of money. We don't know where the money went. The money was in the FEMA account, and now it's not in the FEMA account, and it's gone. So then naturally curious investigative reporters, I know a term you haven't heard a lot of in the last 4 years, they started looking into this a little bit. And you know what they found? And gosh darn it, if it wasn't the most absurd thing you'd ever seen. They had taken $1 billion out of the FEMA fund that's actually specified for hurricane relief and other natural disasters. Like, that's what it's for. And you know what they used it for? They're getting hotel rooms and room service for illegal migrants that are here. Now, I don't know about you. I'm just guessing this close to an election, seeing the Harris administration give all of the money away that probably would have been better used with the victims of the natural disaster to the migrants who are just here, in the hotel rooms with the food coming to them, seems to me to be a little odd. I don't know. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the sequence of events, but $1 billion you lost. And so then she has to go back to the region, and she says, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you $750 each. What? I'm sorry, it's going to be $750 each. Goodbye, everybody. I've got to run. Did you see the list of things that they have given money to? $8 billion this year to Ukraine. Did you know that? $8 billion. $11 billion to the Middle East, trying to solve that war. $11 billion to the Middle East, $8 billion to the Ukraine. You've got $1.1 billion still going to Afghanistan. Why are we giving money to Afghanistan? They don't even like us anymore. And there's a whole list of others. 1.1 billion here, 1.2 billion there. See, Rand Paul was not in his dad. Both of them, they were like, let's stop remember old Ron Paul? Let's stop giving money to all those people that hate us. Yes, I kind of think that would be a good idea. But let's at least give the money that we have collected for natural disasters to the people that are having the natural disaster. But where was Joe Biden? He was on the beach sunning himself. The terrible last days of his administration. Get that guy out of here faster than you can. No, actually, just let him stay. Because then then it's Harris running everything, and that's a disaster. I mean, she's probably running it anyway, but she didn't even have the stones to show up and like even deliver water or anything. She walks up, gives a speech, goes back, gets on the plane, and gets out of there. And I wonder why they're slow walking all of this help to predominantly red voting areas. Have you asked yourself that question? I mean, I'm not making any assertions here, but it has been very curious how a lot of the damage is in deep red areas. And for some reason, they're just not able to get money to them or planes off the ground or supplies there, and yet a private citizen named Donald J. Trump, a private citizen. Yes, he's a billionaire. Yes, he has resources. Yes, he uses them to help people. And it's not just an election year thing. He did it in Puerto Rico. He did it for Katrina. He did it post 9/11. He does it all the time. This is what the Trump family did. Laura and Eric were down there with him. The Trumps show up. Private resources. They start a GoFundMe, raise millions of dollars for help. Where's the government? Well, they're busy holding fundraisers in Philadelphia and Detroit because they're falling behind in the polling in those two cities to somebody named Trump. Friends, if you don't think the next 30 days are going to be some of the most light your hair on fire and hold on to the guardrail because it's going to be a blast of a time, you ain't living. All right, Kevin McCullough, we've got a big show straight ahead. Stop me.
From New York, it's That Kevin Show.
See, I knew it.
Come on, Kev. What's a few classified documents between friends?
I told you all the time. I knew it. I knew he had some too.
Here he is. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show from Times Square in New York. Glad to have you with us. I'm always glad to have truth tellers on the show. It is very important that we set the facts straight. And it is very important that in the process of setting those facts straight, that we amplify the fact that people have not been shooting straight about certain things. And last week, the week of September the 20th, Kamala Harris, the VP, was in Atlanta. She was there to basically prove her pro-abortion bona fides, lust, hunger. She wants more dead babies than any presidential candidate that's ever run. She just wants the rivers to run with babies' blood. It's really sad just how aggressive she is in wanting to make sure that babies are killed. But she was there, and she made an interesting statement in her presentation that seemed to imply that it was the abortion bans that have gone into place in Georgia since the overturning of Roe v. Wade that caused the death of a couple of people that she cited that she was talking about. But in reality, it's just the opposite that caused their death. Here to discuss is Dr. Ingrid Skop of the Lozier Institute, and she's with us to discuss this. Dr. Skop, thank you for being with us so much. What is the truth of the situation?
Well, what we're seeing is that for some reason, the Democrats think this is a winning political issue. And the only reason they can even try to think that is that they have so misrepresented the issue of abortion to the American people that the American people do not understand. Ever since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, we've seen them lying and saying that, for example, these laws will not allow doctors to provide necessary medical care for women in pregnancy emergencies, that they won't allow miscarriage treatment, that they won't allow ectopic treatment. Well, all you have to do is Google the law, and you will see that clearly all of those things are an exception to every single pro-life law in this country. So to me, it speaks of desperation. They can't be honest about the laws because 95% of abortions in our country are healthy moms and healthy babies, children who their lives are being ended for social and financial reasons. That is the truth of abortion in America, and the American public are very uncomfortable with those type of elective abortions. But really, regarding what happened in Georgia, 2 women did die following taking medication abortion drugs, mifepristone and misoprostol. And so the drugs killed the women, not the laws. The Amber Thurman, one of the women, went out of state, obtained the drugs, and came back home and had a failed abortion. So her body did not expel all of the tissue. That tissue became infected. The FDA, by the way, has a black box warning on mifepristone for exactly this problem. It's rare, but when it happens, it is deadly. Now, because the laws had been so misrepresented, apparently Ms. Thurman thought that she could be prosecuted. No state will prosecute a woman who obtains an abortion, but that may have led to a delay in her obtaining care. When she went to the emergency room, it is not clear why the doctors did not intervene. Doctors know that she was clearly septic at the time she presented and needed that dead tissue to be removed from her uterus in order to treat her infection. But for whatever reason, the doctors delayed about 20 hours before they took her to surgery, and she died on the operating table. It was the drugs that killed her, not the law, and it's not clear what was going on with the doctors. It may have just been medical malpractice.
Well, I was just about to say, it doesn't even sound like it was exclusively the drugs. It may have been the inaction by the medical team. And the overarching point of all of this is that the abortion ban had nothing to do with what created the circumstances of her death.
Absolutely. The second woman who died, Candy Miller, ordered these drugs online from a distributor in the Netherlands. So that is allowed because the FDA has removed all the important safeguards on these drugs. They're allowing that to happen so that women are having totally medically unsupervised abortions. She also had a failure. About 1 out of 20 women will have a failure where they need surgery to remove that tissue. But apparently she died from a fentanyl overdose. And why did that happen? Because women experience severe pain. Their bodies go into labor. And rather than seek care, apparently she was also afraid because the law had been misrepresented as prosecuting women, and she did not seek care. She sought to medicate on her own, and it ultimately led to her death. So both of these women, the blame lies squarely on the abortion drugs. The blame lies on the FDA for taking away important safeguards, allowing these drugs to be used as a do-it-yourself abortion. And by the way, these changes by the FDA occurred long before Roe v. Wade was overturned. This was always the plan. This has nothing to do with the Dobbs decision or Georgia's abortion laws.
I just want the people watching and listening to really take note of what we're talking about here. Kamala Harris is saying on the campaign stump every day, because she's not doing her job as VP. She's saying on the campaign stump every single day, these bans are causing women to die. And she cited these two cases specifically in her Georgia speech. In Georgia, what Dr. Skop has just explained to us is that it was in fact not the ban that caused their death. It was the fact that they accessed abortion, drugs and access, and then did not know, one, how to go about it. Number two, did not have safeguards that the FDA should be enforcing on drugs that are this potent and this powerful. Number three, medical malpractice and neglect. And fourthly, some sort of overdose that we don't understand where the second one got it from, but it was not related to anything related to the holistic, whole woman, whole family approach that even a pro-life crisis pregnancy center would have provided. And Dr. Skop, I don't really understand, and maybe you can shed some light on this. There's always been this animosity in the women's health circles between the abortion clinics as they view crisis pregnancy centers, and yet neither one of these women would have had nearly this kind of reception had they reached out to a pro-life person for help, because a pro-life person would have definitively gotten them the help that they needed, even in their moment of crisis, even though they were committing an act that the pro-life person disagreed with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about these abortion drugs, and we took a case to the Supreme Court warning about the abortion drugs, but the Supreme Court basically passed on and did not look at the merits of the case. We are doing what we're doing because we care for women. We want them to do well. No one wants a woman to die because of medical neglect after taking these dangerous drugs. And so this dishonest conversation that lies about the laws, that lies about the circumstances where women can receive care, that even confuses doctors so that they don't understand the laws. This is all they have. This is desperation. They can't have a discussion on the merits of elective abortion. They must point at the tragic circumstances and then misrepresent them to imply that it's the law's fault. But again, the laws allow doctors to do what they need to do clearly.
We're coming right back from Times Square. Eye-opening conversation with Dr. Ingrid Skop.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us on this edition of That Kevin Show. And I want to go back to Dr. Ingrid Skop. I want to have you unfold for us a little bit of the impact that this dishonest approach that the pro-abortion forces has been having on people in recent years. And one thing kind of stands out to me. When we learned of Mr. Gosnell's clinic in Philadelphia, when we learned about the abortion clinics in Texas, for example, that did not even operate with hospital admitting credentials, something started to develop in my mind, at least, that I had not picked up on previously. And that was this pattern of the people that provide the abortions kind of talk about it in a framework of caring for women and giving them medical care and trying to look out for their health and well-being. But in reality, even before Dobbs was overturned, and now we have the malfunctioning of the abortion drug and the malpractice of the hospital that didn't deal with the sepsis and that sort of thing. But it seems to me that one of the most dangerous places a woman can find herself is in the midst of an abortion procedure, because the pro-abortion forces don't seem to care about the health of the woman, regardless of the fact that they advertise, that they make their whole talking points built around that.
Yes, you're right. I mean, the narrative is so deceptive. And one problem is that most of the mainstream medical organizations are very pro-abortion, not because it's good for women, but we look at historically, in many cases, eugenic and population control ideology. They promote this narrative of abortion as healthcare, but approximately 90% of obstetricians do not do elective abortions. So we know it's not healthcare. We know that we have two patients, and yet they continue to promote this deceptive narrative because they think that it'll cause, and unfortunately it has been the case that it's caused many Americans to think, oh, well, this is necessary for women to do well. But again, in the extremely rare cases where a pregnancy complication threatens a woman's life, every state law allows intervention. But the confusion that has been promoted has led some doctors not to intervene, to say, I know I need to intervene, but I can't because of the law. They misunderstand the law. And so it's really, obviously the end goal is to turn the American public against these laws by implying that they're dangerous for women. They're not. Understood correctly, all these laws do is they prevent the elective ending of unborn life. And as a society that says we value human life and human rights, we should all applaud that. But in an emergency, these laws do not apply. The doctors can intervene. But there's really, by the way, no good quality studies that proves that there's any benefit to a woman from an elective abortion.
Right.
So to say that this is evidence-based healthcare is flat out a lie, because there's no studies that document that women benefit from abortion, and many studies that document that they suffer.
So just to summarize, what Dr. Ingrid Skop is telling us is that Kamala's entire talking point about women being vulnerable from a healthcare perspective in this election, if she's not elected, is just flat out not true. Kamala will embrace the policies that will put women increasingly at risk, make their lives more vulnerable, make more women vulnerable to disease, to infection, to potentially death. And it's not the abortion bans. It's not the laws that the voters in several states have passed and said we don't want elective ending of unborn children to occur. Dr. Skop, I just wonder if you could clarify one other thing. She also said in the debate that there was not one single state where a child could be allowed to die or put to death following a botched abortion. Do you have data that seems to reinforce or contradict what she said?
Yeah, one thing to understand is very little data is mandatorily reported. So what we get is really piecemeal because no one is supervising the abortion industry. But we do know from the CDC that approximately 1%, that's about 10,000 abortions a year, are performed when a child can survive separated from his mother. Many of these late abortions are by induction. And abortion providers tell us that they don't usually kill the baby first. So as an obstetrician, I can tell you most children do survive an induction. And so studies have shown that these children do survive, and then they are killed by active and passive euthanasia, maybe put into a bucket full of water, maybe their neck is snipped like Kermit Gosnell did, or maybe they're just left to die by exposure. But it is happening, but the reason we're not hearing about it is no one is supervising the abortion industry. Nobody is making sure, because they operate outside of standard medical care, no one is making sure that they are practicing quality medicine, and women suffer because of that.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, oddly enough. But very glad to have you with us, and very glad to welcome back from the America First Policy Institute, Mr. Marc Lauder, who is kind of the voice and face for much of what that incredible organization. And Marc, I'm not just blowing smoke at you. You guys... You came together shortly after the last administration, and in less than 3 years, you've become a real source of fact, of research, of study in terms of what people need to know as it relates to public policy. And I'm really grateful that how many of you ever got into that coffee shop and drew it up on a napkin and said, let's do this, that you voted to go through with it, because I think you've been a great addition to the discussion.
Well, thank you. Now, credit where credit's due. It is really the brainchild of our president and CEO, Brooke Rollins, who was the head of the Domestic Policy Council in the White House for President Trump, the great Linda McMahon, the great Larry Kudlow, basically saying all of the brilliant minds and the incredible doers of that Trump administration, we can't just scatter to the wind come January 20th, 2021. Yeah. Let's harness it. Let's bring them all under one roof, and then let's help shape the future for the America First movement, no matter who is going to be the nominee. Obviously, back at that time, we didn't know who was going to run, who was going to be the nominee, but make sure they're prepared and ready to go.
Well, and I think in a way, you've given undersupport and structure for the America First movement that lacked it in terms of an organized voice and think tank. Kind of what Washington would refer to as traditional conservatives have had heritage in some of these other places for a long time, but to be exclusively focused on the American First idea it's a new generation of thinking in the political arena, and I'm thankful that you guys are there. Let me quickly, speaking of brilliance, move to the vice president's brilliant record on the border, that we are supposed to think she was the first. What did she say in the debate? I'm the only person on stage that's prosecuted border crimes and so forth. Well, we got a report last week that if she's so good at prosecuting people that have committed crimes on our border, she's grossly derelict in that duty, because that report was mind-blowing.
Yeah, talk about the proverbial middle finger to Kamala Harris is that the ICE, the Immigration Custom Enforcement, released statistics that showed out of the 12 million illegals or so that they've allowed into our country, 660,000 of them have criminal backgrounds. 400 and I think 35,000 actually have criminal convictions, including 13,000 convicted murderers, 15,000 convicted sexual predators. We're not talking about charges. We're not talking about accusations. 28,000 murderers and sexual predators who've actually been charged, convicted, and now they walk the streets freely in our country. You know, we always talk about, and for years, Kevin, we've talked about this, is that the border's making us less safe. The border's making us less safe. And it's kind of the, you know, proverbial, you're less safe because all these people are here. Now you know it. Now you have hard and truth. Can you imagine 13,000 murderers
But
walking
Mark,
the
I
street
gotta
freely?
say that report, because I don't think the American people are lost on this. I think that they have felt it. I think they felt the impact of Laken Riley and the 12-year-old in Texas and all of these people that have been murdered and totally in New York City here. We have seen the violent crime. Everybody wants to argue about crime being down, but murders and rapes are up tremendously. And everyone kind of inherently feels it and knows it. This now gives them the proof that they're not nuts. And I think there's been a little bit of an attempt by the other side to kind of gaslight people that felt that way, and they had no right to. This is the reality.
No, you're absolutely right. And to make matters worse, I mean, think about it this way, Kevin. If one of those 13,000 murderers or 15,000 predators got picked up today, for, you know, speeding or for shoplifting or something minor and booked in New York or in LA, California, Chicago, all of these sanctuary cities, ICE isn't going to be told about it.
Yeah.
They're going to be let go. They're going to get their traffic ticket. They're going to get their citation, and they're going to be put back on the streets by these liberal sanctuary politicians from the left, as opposed to getting these killers and these convicts out of our country. They're not even permitted to tell federal officials that we've got this person. Can you come get rid of them? So that should make you very scared right now if you are living all across the country.
It makes my skin crawl. But so let me drill down on a couple of things here. Last week, there was a video released of Kamala Harris, and I forget the location, but I've got it linked at my Instagram, chanting with a group of illegal migrants the words "down, down with deportation, up, up with education." I guess the play in her mind is deportation's a dirty word, and people are going to think that she's mean if she says that she's for deportation. That would be kind of all on its own, not as big of a deal. But the very same week, 158 Democrats in the United States Congress voted to not deport criminal rapists and murderers that sexually assault American citizens. And yes, I'm slowing the gait of my speech down because I want this to sink into the people that are watching. The left doesn't even want to get rid of people that are harming us directly.
I mean, you just can't make this up. And, you know, for folks who are on the fence, who may not be 100% sold, I mean, when you hear these kind of statistics and when you see that, remember, Kamala Harris has said in the past that multiple times that she wants to decriminalize illegal border crossings. She's also said her values haven't changed. And then when you look at the fact that she's allowed all of these convicted criminals, 435,000 of them, into our country, and now wants to limit our ability to get them out of our country. There's no photo op she can take down by spending 20 minutes at the wall and say, I'm tough on the border, when these are the direct results of your open border policies, Kamala. And it doesn't matter where you are. It's not just Texas and Arizona and California anymore. You know, it's Virginia, it's Georgia, it's North Carolina, it's up the Northeast, it's through the Midwest.
He's Marc Lauder. I'm Kevin McCullough.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Okay, check my notes. Okay. Oh, hi. I'm Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Even though I sound like I'm from Kansas, I'm really from Nebraska, and I do not approve of this message.
Here it comes.
television's most exciting hour of leftist idiots. Today we introduce the man known for embellishing stories, lying about his military record, his travels to China, and doesn't even know what's in the abortion bills he signs as governor. His chronic nervousness is accompanied by erratic and awkward hand motions. And, most notably, he looks absolutely terrified when put on the spot in a debate. All right, Tim Walz, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Dems Aren't Right.
Well, why can't you just mind your own dang business? Now, from Times Square, here he is. It's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him from his Votes-for-Damas.
Of course that Kevin Show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be That Donald Show. We don't have that, so we have That Kevin Show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Yet to come, Mike Huckabee with the latest from Decision 24. Sketch comedy from the Babylon Bee and Dilly Memes. He's past the point of no return. Former Phantom David Gaschen and Florrie in the spotlight. And now, from Times Square, a man who's excited because all 8 New York sports teams are still eligible for the playoffs. Here's the...
Well, Dave, I'm not going to lie. I think it's kind of cool that all 8 teams are still in the playoffs.
They're not.
Oh, not in the playoffs. The baseball teams are in the playoffs.
Yes.
So how do I get to the...
The other ones haven't played yet.
Yeah, that's not as big of a deal as I thought it was.
Yeah, they aren't even started.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bigger deal, but almost none of the other seasons have started, and football teams are already in contention.
Already on the verge of elimination.
So I guess that's kind of a bummer, actually. It's sad when you think about it. Anyway, Kevin McCullough, let's do the news. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough. At just over 30 days before the election, the Harris administration finds itself in a hornet's nest of pushback over its plan to assist the victims of Hurricane Helene. In massive public response, the Office of the Vice President is attempting to walk back their offer of $750 per victim. At first, the public believed that Harris was walking it back to naturally increase the payout. Turns out she was just taking her check and going home. One of the complicating factors in this year's hurricane relief has been the stoppage of U.S. ports. The union has since announced it will delay the strike until after the election. In related news, the union boss behind the stoppage has been identified publicly as a former mafia assassin. When Assignment Desk Weekend asked the union head about the claim, he simply gruffly replied, "Who wants to know?" Later, he added, "How do you think I got this job to begin with?" The Department of Homeland Security had an embarrassing end to the week when Secretary Mayorkas had to admit that the department was running out of money. As we later learned, the FEMA budget had been completely depleted because Mayorkas and Harris had used $1 billion in FEMA monies instead of what it was supposed to be, putting it instead towards placing illegal immigrants into the USA with housing and feeding programs. The two very things that U.S. citizens that are victims of Helene desperately now need. The problem was also made worse by a July claim from Mayorkas that was uncovered on video, claiming that everything was A-OK. Just in time for October, an expert is now claiming that the modern-day serial killers likely hide amongst the trucker community in America. Great. As if pulling off the highway didn't already fill every heart with intrepidation of every bad horror movie that has ever been made. You know what I'm talking about. You're driving late at night, you're on the highway, you pull off to fill up the gas, and all you see are large trucks on either side of where you are. And it's dark. The former star of the TV show Girl Meets World and recording artist Sabrina Carpenter is now facing criticism from a group she had not expected to receive it from. Mothers of her female teen fans. In fact, they're lining up on Carpenter's social media and Reddit rooms criticizing the performer's stage costumes, the vast majority of which are lingerie. See-through, lace, satin, silk comprise about 70% of her wardrobe for her new concert tour. The mothers claiming they'd like a more wholesome example for their daughters. When fathers of those same teen girls were asked their opinions, they said, "You mean that's not how girls dress almost everywhere else these days?" In reply, the singer simply said she was already nervous enough about being on stage with thousands of people watching her without having to wear clothes that made her uncomfortable. Because, you know, a girl always feels most comfortable in stilettos and underthings projected on 90-foot screens. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin Scott.
Welcome, comrades. Josephina here. Today we're going to be going over some absolutely fab socialist cooking recipes. Let's see what we're working with here. There's nothing. How am I supposed to... I mean, this is great. I have everything I need right here. So I guess you're going to wash, let's say they're potatoes, and peel them. I like to use this peeler, but you can also use, I learned against my will, the bayonet off an AK-47. It's a punishing experience that you'll learn a lot from. I was informed. Our main course today is... I have to cook with something! I mean, sorry, everything's fine. Our main course is... this single pea. First we'll want to season. Then I need, salt. A single grain of salt should be more than enough. Let that rest. This single grain of salt will break down into the pea, bringing the barely any flavor to life. Next, we'll need to cut it. You need to be incredibly careful. If you get a bad cut, one that requires stitches or any medical care, you're out of luck. Trust me. This is impossible! Okay, now that our potatoes and this tiny, almost non-existent main dish are done, we can toss them in the oven. Of course, since this is an authentic socialist recipe, we have no power or gas in this place. So the food is just gonna have to sit there. Just sit in a broken oven. Hopefully it's a hot day and the temperature can warm it up a little bit, you know? Or maybe you at home can try rubbing a couple sticks together to create a little warmth. So how long should we put this in there for? Okay, gotta get past the guards, hop the fence, climb through the sewage pipe. Okay, should take about 45 minutes to cook in the oven. Here we go. means we're about ready to enjoy this delicious socialist meal. Wow. Now that's what it tastes like to live in a socialist utopia. Next week, I'll show you another socialist recipe. Oh, and it sounds like we might have some more ingredients to cook with. Until then,
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That's Kevin. From New York, it's That Kevin Show.
See, I knew it.
Come on, Kev. What's a few classified documents between friends?
I told you all the time. I knew it. I knew he had some too.
Here he is. That Kevin. Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back from Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough. Couldn't be happier than to have you with us on That Kevin Show. Witty title we came up with. Anyway, glad to welcome back my very good friend, Governor Mike Huckabee. Hello, sir.
And Kevin, great to be with you, and thank you for having me this weekend.
You've always got a welcome mat out at our door, but you know who doesn't have a welcome mat, and it's concerning? Evidently, Ukrainians have a welcome mat. Evidently, the Middle East has a welcome mat. Evidently, Afghanistan still getting $1.2 billion a year from us. Didn't know that was going on. I thought they were kind of not so friendly with us anymore. Anyway, I saw a whole list of these payouts that we've been doing this year. And Kamala Harris, in an attempt to, I don't know, probably try to recreate the Obama Chris Christie beach hug after Sandy, goes to the area yesterday and announces a $750 coupon for everybody. Hey, guys, come get your coupon. I really care about your plight. Governor, you, as the governor of Arkansas, and I've spent time in Arkansas and North Carolina. I happen to love both states. I think both of them have a lot of beauty, and they're very similar in a lot of ways. What went through your mind as you're hearing her respond and what you know the people are needing at that point in time?
Well, I was appalled, first of all, that the Homeland Security Director hasn't even been there, that he's thinking it's wonderful to give a $750 assistance check when an illegal comes across and they get a hotel room, meals, medical care, education for their kids, and a $1,500 gift card. And they don't have to tell anybody who they are. They can get on an airplane without a photo ID, without any identification, with nothing more than a little slip of paper. And you got people who are fighting for their lives in North Carolina, Georgia, and other places across this Southeast. And what they're getting is basically, middle finger from the federal government and a $750. By the way, I hope this helps out a little bit. Look, I just think it's tragic when the people who are doing the most work are people like Samaritan's Purse,
right,
and other relief organizations, the Southern Baptist Men, people like that who are down there. Thank God they are there, because without them, they would really be in trouble. And then you look at people like the Cajun Navy and Corey Mills, the congressman from Florida. They're marshaling private resources that are doing things that, frankly, the government ought to do. Look, I was governor of a state that went through many natural disasters, floods, ice storms, many, many tornadoes. And we were affected dramatically by Hurricane Katrina. We weren't on the coast, but we took in 75,000 evacuees to our state. I'm going to tell you what you have to do. It has to be all hands on deck. And you have to shove everything else off your schedule and table when you're managing a crisis of this magnitude. And Joe's hanging out at the beach. Kamala's doing fundraisers. And, they were on the phone an hour or two. That's not what it takes. It takes an absolute concentrated full-time attention, because you have to bring in the assets, bring in the resources, and you have to manage them and make sure that people are being accountable for how those assets and resources are deployed.
I almost thought what a capstone and kind of a summary of the campaign it is to see the response to this, because within less than a day, Donald Trump was headed there with plane loads and truckloads of help. He starts the GoFundMe page. That's over 5 million in terms of what it's taken in just from private citizens trying to help their fellow citizens. But as you said, all hands on deck. Eric and Laura are down there. I'm pretty sure that Junior and Kimberly are working things to benefit those that are in need. And you have kind of an, all in or nothing kind of mentality. And I keep telling my listeners today, this isn't a campaign cycle kind of thing for the Trumps. This is what they did in Puerto Rico. He got made fun of for how he threw the paper towel rolls to the people that needed them. But he was there. You know who wasn't there? Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. You didn't see anybody like that down there. And he's not using taxpayer money to help these people. He's using his funds, his resources, and he's encouraging others to join him in that effort. But you talk about seeing a need, responding to it, boom, bringing an answer, trying to get as much help marshaled and as much attention as he can, as fast as he can. Meanwhile, and I know Joe's not in the race anymore, but he's out on the beach in Delaware. Kamala comes back. As you said, she took a phone call. She faked the phone call first. She faked a phone call on Air Force Two, but her earbuds weren't connected. She had nothing on the paper she was writing on. It was really weird. I don't know why they do that. Everything about that campaign has been fake so far. But even just getting briefed by FEMA, that's not doing much, especially when you're out of money at FEMA. If she really passionately cared, she should be down there with boots on, passing out water, doing what she can and saying, I'm going to at least draw attention. Hey, Clooney. Hey, Roberts. Hey, all the people, Streep, all you people, wanting to give out money to make a difference. Hey, how about now?
If she would raise as much money for the victims of the hurricane as she did for the people who burned down Minneapolis and the rest of Minnesota,
thank you.
Police cars and fire stations and private businesses, those folks would be in better shape. Quite frankly, when you're the leader, it's not about getting a report from those who answer to you. It's being there in their presence and making sure that they are answering to you and what you are commanding them to do. She has no commands because she doesn't have a clue what needs to be done. There's no leadership. And I'm sorry, that sounds harsh and crass, but in the midst of a crisis, you find out what a person is made of and are they capable of managing a crisis? What we've seen is neither Joe nor Kamala are capable of managing a crisis. They just disappear. They turn it over to some other people and hope they do. Can I tell you one thing a lot of people don't understand? They'll say, well, politicians shouldn't go to these places anyway. They're busy. They're, trying to deal with things. Let me tell you why they should go.
But if you're an elected leader, you're not just a politician.
Well, exactly.
You're holding a job that the people need you to do.
When you're there, though, I'll tell you what happens. Every camera and every reporter and notebook in America goes with you. So what you really are doing is you're helping to call attention to the extraordinary, incredible problem that is being faced that would never be told except you're there, and the press can't ignore this story. They have to report it because they're reporting it in the context of the leader being there. I'm going to be fair. The best president in my lifetime of dealing with a crisis like this was Bill Clinton. Say what you want to about anything, Bill Clinton's policies or his personal life. But when it came to managing a crisis, Bill Clinton was on the spot. He had been a governor in a small state, happened to be the one that I am once governor of. But he understood that presence is what matters at a time like this. And he never failed to show up in the aftermath of a natural disaster. And it was sincere on his part. I'll give him credit for that. Yeah. We don't see that from Joe. I know Joe, according to his exit speech, he is going to spend his last month saving democracy. And I guess the best way he's decided to save democracy is staying out of the way of real democracy and letting America reelect Donald Trump to be president, because the Lord knows that's the best hope we have going forward.
It'll be interesting. I think that Governor DeSantis in Florida deserves a shout out on his handling of this crisis and some other ones too. But even we also forget there's a strike going on with our ports, and that threatened to stop Florida's ability to respond to the disaster. And he said, over my dead body, and he's not letting that happen. So that's what leadership is: stepping up to the moment and taking charge and making sure that the things get done. And boy, do we need that. Like we've not needed it in a really long time, especially in Washington. All right. Thanks as always for checking in. Kevin McCullough coming right back from New York. Don't go away.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. McCullough.
Dream in Color Orchestra, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Mora, Dick Tunney, Sam Levine, and Dave Cleveland. What a great house band. Love having those guys here. So glad to have you with us on each and every weekend. And for those of you that have been with me a long time, if you have been listening to this show, you have the potential to have been listening to this time slot at my voice, I think in excess of almost 15 years now. It's been through different things. I had Stephen Baldwin as a co-host for a little while. We called it Baldwin McCullough, and then it was Radio Night Live, and it's been a variety of things, but has never been anything more special than when it's been That Kevin Show. And that's why we've got the mugs. We're going to start giving those away next week. If you would like to register for your chance to win one of those, by the way, send an email to thatkevinshow@gmail.com. Put in the subject line mug, and then in the body, just give us your mailing address and which mug you'd like. We have two varieties. We have the white with the red and black logo, as you see in my hand on the camera here. We also have a completely black one with the inverted white and red, and it looks just equally as sharp. I love having my coffee in the morning in them. They keep it nice and warm. They do everything that a good mug is supposed to do. But we're going to kick that back into next weekend's show. And then every weekend till the end of the year, we'll be drawing a name. ThatKevinShow@gmail.com, ThatKevinShow@gmail.com. And if you wouldn't mind adding one other thing, I'd love to know where you get us. Do you watch us on Pluto? Do you watch us on the Salem News Channel app? Do you listen to us on radio? Do you listen to us online? I'd love to know. Just give me just a little insight on how you find us each week. And then send your address and your request for which kind of mug and be listening. We might draw your name. Also coming this week, some significant changes to That Kevin Show. We're going to give it a fresh facelift. You've already noticed we've got the band in place. We've got a new set. We're working on a bunch of different things, but we're going to try to end this year making this season the most spectacularly special season. And in that regard, there is a new opportunity for you to listen/watch in a new way, place, and time. I want to give you all that info. Go to thatkevinshow.com. Join my social media. I will be making the announcement sometime midweek this next week when I have it confirmed. But I'm looking forward to what that means, because it means more people are going to get to see and hear and be part of what we're doing, like what we're doing with our causes. I want to say thank you to those of you who helped us feed hungry children this summer. We didn't do as many as we wanted, but because of your generosity, we were able to feed 176 children that for the next year will not have to worry about where their next meal comes from. Each one of those kids are going to get 700 plus meals over the course of 1 year's time. That's 2 meals a day. And they're going to be so grateful for that. It's literally saving the lives of those 176 children. But from now to the end of the year, we are back to our original mission, which is to see 208 female slaves be liberated from North Sudan and be given to go back to their homes and families and places where they grew up in South Sudan, be released from slavery and be out of there forever. And I want to say, because of your generosity, thank you, thank you, thank you. 65 women of those that were on the list of 208 are all that we have left to liberate. That means 143 lives have been liberated and forever changed because of you. And I just want to say thank you to that. Bringherhome.org if you want more info. Now, last but not least, something very special is coming to the theater this weekend. Take a listen.
Excuse me.
Oh God, what is he doing?
I saw this on your desk.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I didn't even know his name.
Look at this freak.
But we had in common one crucial thing.
These are really good. For a Jew.
We had both seen how much hate people are capable of.
One of the children's missing. Find them!
And how much courage it took to be kind.
You need to come with me right now. I know a way out.
You stay with us, okay? When in dark times, those small things remind us of our humanity.
How'd you like to visit New York tonight?
Sure.
Open your eyes.
I was never very nice to you. But you're strong. You're the bravest person I've ever met.
You forget many things in life, but you never forget kindness. Because when kindness can cost you your life, it becomes like a miracle.
That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. Why would I find myself in the middle of a hot Texas afternoon in Waco, Texas, in the middle of July, to talk about Christmas, the Nativity, the story of Christ's birth as it's never been told before? Because that's the subject of the brand new Broadway level musical called He Rules the World. It's a rock opera, if you will, about the birth of Jesus. So let's go find out what's going on, talk to some of the people behind it, and give you a little taste of what's coming. Come on.
And I'm on the scene of something that has not been done a lot of, at least in the faith-based space in recent years. And not that I cover that in particular, but those of you that watch or listen regularly know that I'm a committed believer. And I noticed a trend a couple of years ago in which the Christmas story was taking on new life. Last year, Drake Bethlehem was a monster film hit. And this year, someone's hoping that a stage production of the story of Jesus might encounter some bubble up as well. So here we are discussing it with one of its lead principals. David Gaschen is the co-producer, and he's also talent coach and someone that you might know if you're a bit of a Broadway buff. You know, on Fridays I talk a lot about what's going on the Broadway scene. But David, it's good to have you at the Kevin Show. Thanks for being here.
Oh, sure. My pleasure.
1,300 performances when I got the press release, but at dinner last night you said it was 1,500 performances of The Phantom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Just tell the truth. That's all I ask.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
See,
we're past the point of no return. I have to tell.
And immediately, there we've gone.
There we go. Right down the rabbit hole. It was 1,300 when I was all the way through my second year in Phantom on Broadway. I'd done it in Europe for 4 years.
Right.
And then throughout the tour and then other stuff, I'd done it 100 and a couple of times.
What's the magic of the musical, and particularly the stage musical? As being part of the Broadway Association here in Manhattan, I have the chance to interface with a lot of this community, and the connoisseurs of Broadway are very different in terms of their experience and what they anticipate than that of film or other projected media. What is it? What is the magic?
I think what theater does is it takes people away. And for thousands of years it's taken people away from their regular day life. And each journey is different. So each journey is almost like a different genre of music, so to speak. Some people like this style of theater. Some people like the big Les Mis, Miss Saigon Phantom. Some people like a more drawn down version, a little bit more simple, and now these new musicals are coming out that are really poppy. I mean, it's pop.
No, I've seen an abundance of these with Springsteen and a bunch of people that have done one-man shows or retrospectives. I mean, the Who's Whiz this last year was obviously quite big.
Oh, yeah.
But there is something about the community being together and observing this story together, in the room together, that makes it. And COVID really tried to do everything it could to kill it, and it did. We're back better than ever now.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the wonderful thing. I thought Phantom for sure would close as COVID because it'd been running for 33 years, right? But there's something so tough about the Broadway community, the actors, the producers, the stage managers, that they just won't give in.
Yeah.
They'll do everything they can. And that when I was there for all those years on Broadway, it's just cohesive. It's like an army that won't break.
Yeah.
And it's because their greatest love is to bring stage work.
I've always wondered about the Tonys because it's shown nationwide, but really a New York-based audience that understands it more deeply. But you guys are changing that dynamic with He Rules the World, which is your new project.
Yes.
And we're actually sitting in Waco, Texas, taping this.
Yes.
Far away from the stages and bright lights of Broadway. Why'd you get involved? What was it about this production that drew you, and what do you want to accomplish?
Well, when I first was involved, a friend of mine who was one of the marketing people at the beginning, she had asked me to be part of it because I was kind of well known as far as being fan and being in the Broadway world. And I'm from Texas originally. I live in Frisco, Texas, just north of Dallas, and I'm from Lubbock. As I talked to her, she said, I want you to try this. And she sent me the music, she sent me the book, and I've never heard anything like it. You hear these songs that were old hymns that Peter Emerson has totally rearranged and reimagined. You'd never think you would hear Bring It Towards Jeanette Isabella the way you're going to hear it tonight, right? Or the way you'll ever hear it, or any one of those songs, the way he put it together in chronological order. And then when I heard all the music, I thought, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in because I get to use the gift God gave me to hopefully spread the good news of what Christmas is actually about.
Well, with the emergence of The Chosen and last year's Journey to Bethlehem and a number of other big projects, the biblical narrative is coming back to the mainstream discussion in a way that it had been kind of relegated in years past.
Absolutely.
Do you think He Rules the World has a seat at that table?
Oh, 100%. 100% because it's true to the gospel, it's true to the Bible, it's 100% biblical, but you don't feel like you're being thrown the Bible at you, right? It tells a story that people can relate to, that's familiar to them. Everybody pretty much, whether you're a believer or not, has heard the birth of Christ, story. We're aware of it. But for those people who've heard it and never accepted it, it's the opportunity to accept Christ again. Yeah. It's the opportunity for them to hear how much God loved us, that He gave us that Son, His Son.
The thing about theater, and we hear lots of this in New York on a regular basis, but it's so expensive. And particularly if there's something in the 38 theaters that are in Broadway.
Yeah.
Does He Rules the World belong there?
I think He Rules the World could easily belong there. Because it's a seasonal show. You would think it could only be done at Christmas, like the Broadway Spectacular, the Radio City, like that type of thing, which it could easily be done. But if you listen to the music, you can listen to that music.
It's going to be around year round.
Yeah, absolutely.
David Gaschen, thank you for taking a moment with us. We appreciate it. Best wishes on He Rules the World, and friends, thank you for watching That Kevin Show.
Ready or not?